Jack Harrison stood in the humming cold of the evidence room, eyes locked on a jittering security feed that made a liar of his own instincts. A prank call had been paperwork, a shrug, another noise in a city of sirens. Now, in the bleached glare of fluorescent light, the footage insisted he had been wrong. If he chased this and it was nothing, his credibility would crack. If he ignored it and it was real, people would get hurt and the rot he had sworn to fight would spread. He slid a fresh cup of coffee toward the night clerk without breaking focus. The small kindness cost nothing. The video timestamp ticked. A loading bay in a silent San Francisco warehouse resolved into focus. A figure crossed the frame, lean and deliberate, gloved hands moving like a surgeon. The camera stuttered, then caught the hand pressing a card on a crate. The card bore a black circle with a narrow slit down the center. An eye. Ink bled into cardboard like it had taken time to dry. Maria Delgado spoke from behind him with her steady, unhurried cadence. "Tech flagged a repeated symbol, Jack. Same eye from those bogus graffiti tips last year." "Too clean to be random," Jack said, keeping his voice even. "Roll it back." He scrubbed the timeline until the figure flickered back into existence. In grain and shadow, the posture was familiar in a way that irritated him. The prank call had come at shift change, a voice laughing at nothing, a dare to check Doc 12 for the punchline. He had dismissed it. The video now showed Doc 12 had not been a joke. Maria moved closer, her breath a soft cloud in the controlled chill. "You see it?" "There," Jack said, "on the wall behind the loading bay." The focus chased, then found it. A faint chalk mark, 3 slashes and a line, like a tally cut short. The gloved hand set something else down near the door, half hidden by a pallet. The camera wobbled as if something nudged it. The sound feed was a low ocean of static. "Pause," Maria said. "What did he leave?" Jack leaned in. A brass locker key rested on the concrete, stamped with C12. It was positioned like a breadcrumb. He remembered the prank call and felt heat climb the back of his neck. "You close this as a prank," Maria said. "Deputy Chief wanted it off the board." "He will again," Jack said. "Not this time." He rolled the timeline forward. The figure retreated out of frame. The warehouse caught light from somewhere, a blue spill like moonlight on steel. A second shadow drifted across the wall in front of the camera, slow, differential, like it knew where the lens lived. Jack froze the frame. A black shape with a shoulder patch slid past. The patch caught light and flashed silver gray. "Uniform," Maria said. "Department issue windbreaker." "Or a costume," Jack said. "Either way, somebody wants us looking inward." He watched the second figure cross to the brass key and nudge it with a boot. The leather shone wet. The boot tip had a notch like it had once been caught in a door. Nondescript details took on the weight of memory. He felt the city around him, the thrum of late buses, the taste of burnt coffee, the undertow of days when he had been too quick to assume. "We are not alone on this," Maria said. "I pulled a call trace. The route pinged through an internal switchboard leg for 6 seconds before the call hit dispatch." "Inside help," Jack said. "That is the stake. Follow this and we step into someone's house." The second figure bent and lifted the key. Then it looked up toward the camera. No face, just a low hood and the glint of an emblem, a stylized eye embroidered where a badge would rest. The feed jumped twice, like static shivers. The last frame before the camera bled white, locked on the edge of a jawline scar. "You know that mark," Maria said. "I know the habit," Jack said. "I know the arrogance." The footage calmed again, and the first figure reappeared for a split second, standing in the doorway that led to the offices beyond the loading bay. It was wrong. The first figure had left, but here it was again, a fraction taller, a fraction slower, a fraction off. The image warped as if the feed had been spliced. The shadow raised a hand, and for the briefest beat, 2 fingers jabbed the air in a salute he had not seen in 12 years. The screen pixelated into a gray storm. "That is not a prank," Maria said. "No," Jack said. "That is a message." He replayed the last seconds and froze on a ripple in the frame that wasn't digital. Behind the second figure, just before the feed died, a third shape ghosted along the far wall. A person, smaller, hooded, pointing something at the lens not quite like a gun and not quite not. The device flashed and the camera went dead. They were not watching a prank. They were watching a rehearsal. The second figure had been a smokescreen. The third figure had killed the feed. "We were meant to find this," Maria said. Jack rubbed the ache in his shoulder. "And if we follow the trail," he said, "we might not like where it ends." In the whiteout static, letters ghosted in as if someone had drawn on the lens with a glove. JH, then a single black circle with a slit. Jack felt his composure tilt. He had taught one detective to mark cameras that way after a botched stakeout long ago. He had buried the memory under work and time. The trick had not been public. The room shrank and the weight of old choices pushed against his chest. "Who else knew that?" Maria asked. "One man," Jack said, surprised at how small his voice felt. The static cleared just enough to show a last shadow slipping out the loading door. It wore a department windbreaker and a confidence that made Jack's skin go cold. Then the screen went black. The prank call he had dismissed had been a door. Someone had opened it and smiled. The room hummed like a live wire as Jack realized the worst of it. The person who had taught him to look at cameras first was supposed to be dead. The city's night moved like low tide around them as Jack and Maria drove through south of Market toward the warehouse on Dock 12. Streetlights smeared across the windshield. The wind from the bay bit at the edges of the car doors. They kept the radio off. Silence did a better job of filling space than bad music. "Warehouse is listed to a shell," Maria said. "Front company with a P.O. box in Daly City and a shiny website that sells nothing." "Old trick," Jack said. "Senior trick." They parked in the shadow of a dead billboard and crossed the yard, boots whispering on gravel. Inside, the air was metal and dust. The loading bay from the footage had a stain like a continent. No brass key on the concrete now, no card, no eye. They swept with flashlights and found scuffed marks where someone had dragged a pallet. Near the door, Maria crouched over a square of tape flattened onto the floor. "Microphone pad," Maria said. "No mic, no adhesive residue from age. This was last week at best." Jack's light found a glint under a metal shelf. He reached with a pen and nudged out a tiny black disc. The coin-sized recorder had a cracked edge. Somebody had missed it or wanted it found. Maria bagged it and shot him a look that read, "Both we are being played and let's play back." They canvassed what passed for neighbors. A bodega owner 2 doors down pretended to be bored but watched every move like it mattered. A man in layers on the corner folded his arms tight and shook his head at questions, then told Jack for a cigarette that he had seen a van the night of the call with a spare tire hung crooked. "Color?" Jack asked. "Gray with a dent," the man said. "Like everybody else's gray, except this one looked like it belonged to a school. Clean." They drove to the precinct and dug into old cases in the forgotten drawer that stuck just before opening. Maria pulled thin reports from a year ago, a series of so-called pranks that never escalated, that died before the second page. Each had a blip of a symbol somewhere on a wall or a crate. Each had a video with a jitter at the same second mark. Every time the camera died for a breath and came back duller. "Patterns are confessions," Jack said. "Sometimes," Maria said. "Sometimes they are bait." Frankie Dunn arrived late to their meet in a half-lit diner in the Tenderloin, sliding into the booth like a man stealing a seat in a lifeboat. Frankie had always looked like he was promising himself to do better tomorrow. Tonight, his hands shook. "The eye means you are seen," Frankie said. "Means keep your head down and keep your mouth shut." "By who?" Jack asked. "By someone who can get into places and make things look like they never happened," Frankie said. "Someone who likes games." "Names," Maria said, her tone soft and relentless. "I hear a name," Frankie said. "I keep hearing Watcher. The Watcher moves information. Inside help, old school habits. Doesn't like phones, likes cameras." "Inside help," Jack said. "From a cop or a civilian who lives with locks." Frankie swallowed hard. "You say the words?" "I did not," Frankie said. "Take me off your calendar after tonight." "You owe me for last winter," Jack said. Frankie stared at the coffee and spoke to it. "You're not the only ones in this," he said. "You never were. The call you ignored was a test. Somebody wanted to see who still takes the bait. Back at the precinct, they plugged the tiny recorder into a dusty player that had survived budget cuts by hiding behind a stack of ring binders. It crackled, and then a voice slid out, filtered but human. "Clock ticks," the voice said. "ICs. Dock 12 at shift change. Bring nothing. Leave everything you think you know. The joke is on you." The tone was wrong for a prank. It sought a specific ear. Jack felt it land. He caught Maria watching him, not the speaker. "This is about you," Maria said. "It is about us," Jack said, though he knew she was right. They returned to the warehouse because momentum felt like survival. The corridors inside were a maze of concrete and shadow. Their lights crawled across graffiti and old stickers. Halfway down a narrow hallway, a silhouette broke free at the edge of Jack's beam. It was there, and then not, like a trick. A low hiss flared from somewhere near the ceiling, speakers hidden like vents. "Too slow, Jack," a voice said. "Always 2 steps behind the video." "Show yourself," Jack said, voice steady by practice. "We are in your house," the voice said. "We like your house. We will put things back where you can't find them." Metal clanged hard ahead of them. A steel door slid down and locked with grit in the tracks. They sprinted and hit nothing but a blank wall when they turned the corner. The exit lights pictured directions that refused to exist. Maria's phone vibrated. She glanced at the message and her face changed. "Anonymous tip," Maria said. "The call you logged as a prank hit extension 4019 for 6 seconds before dispatch." Jack felt his stomach drop. "That's the internal switchboard on the 4th floor," Jack said. "That is ours." The speaker hiss bled out. A tiny red dot winked once along a duct and vanished. Their lights found a new card at the corridor's bend, the eye printed crisp and black. On the back, a line of numbers read 120419. Maria did not need to say it. The numbers matched the switchboard floor and extension. Someone inside had cradled the call and released it like a fish back into the wild. The case had turned on them, and the walls around them smelled like their own work. By dawn, the bay spread flat and pewter under fog. Jack stood at the edge of the Embarcadero and let the cold air work a crease into him. The city woke behind him with bus brakes and brooms on sidewalks. He had been a detective long enough to know when an investigation wanted pieces of his past. He had not expected which piece. Back at the squad, he refused the comfort of routine. He set the iCards on the table and arranged them in a line that told him nothing. Maria walked in with 2 coffees and the names of 3 reluctant colleagues who had worked late on the night of the prank call. He called each. They answered clipped and tired. Nobody had been near the 4th floor switchboard. Every answer contained the same careful shape that said, "Stop asking." He visited an old mentor named Parker in a quiet corner of a North Beach cafe that had not changed chairs since '98. Parker had retired with his humor intact and his illusions gone. He listened without interrupting. "The chalk mark," Parker said. 3 slashes and a line. That is Monroe's thing from back in the day. Inventory check for lazy men. He used it when he was on nights with you." "Monroe is dead," Jack said. "You were at the funeral?" Parker asked. Jack flinched. He had not been. He had been out on a robbery string and had signed the card. Ray Monroe, partner and mentor, was the kind of cop who wore his badge like a promise and sometimes like a dare. He had taught Jack to check cameras before getting out of the car. He had also vanished into a gas-fueled house fire that had left nothing but rumor and a closed file. Deputy Chief Alan Mercer blocked Jack in the hallway when he returned to the precinct. Mercer was the kind of man who could smile and file a complaint in the same breath. His tie lived in place, and his shoes had never seen a foot chase. "Close the prank thing," Mercer said. "We have real crimes and not enough bodies." "The call hit our switchboard first," Jack said. "We need an internal check." Mercer's smile thinned. "We need you to stop turning a joke into a scandal." "It is not a joke," Jack said. "Then prove it without breaking my glass," Mercer said. "Or pick another hill because this one will bury you." Jack watched him leave and felt the old urge to shout. Instead, he found Maria and let the anger pass through words. "They will not let us do this clean," Jack said. Then we will do it small, Maria said. Small beats loud when someone is listening in on the loud. They set a tiny field of traps. They left an innocuous memo visible for a day shift clerk that mentioned a meeting place that did not exist. They waited. The memo vanished. That night, the same meeting place appeared on a new I-mark card on Jack's desk. It was not an accident. Someone had their hands in their drawers. When the anonymous call came, it landed dead center inside Jack's ribs. He recognized nothing at first. The voice was run through water and then through something colder. There was regret in it and a kind of humor he had not heard in a long time. "Always check the camera first, partner," the voice said. Jack did not breathe. "Who is this?" he asked. "You never learned," the voice said. "You trusted your ears. Your ears get you killed." "Ray," Jack said before his mind told his mouth to stop. "I liked you better when you were hungry," the voice said. "Now you look full. Full men miss things." "Where are you?" Jack asked. "Close enough to touch the 4th floor," the voice said. "Closer to your bones." "Ray Monroe is dead," Jack said, as if saying it could make it true. "Death is a story told by men who need it," the voice said. "Find Doc 12 tonight. Bring your shadow." The line cracked like ice and died. Jack stood in the empty squad room and felt air move through him. He heard the same siren tone he had heard the night Monroe had not come home. Maria walked in and read the weather on his face. "Who was it?" Maria asked. "A ghost," Jack said. "Or someone in love with one." "What did the ghost want?" Maria asked. "To make me choose," Jack said. "To drag this into the open or to hide it and watch it fester." They drove back to Dock 12 because the past does not come to you. You go to it. In the office above the loading bay, paint peeled off the door in small curls. On the inside wall, the chalk mark waited. 3 slashes and a line, newer than the dust around it. Someone had put it there for him like a signature. "He is alive," Maria said, not as a question. "Or someone is wearing him like a coat," Jack said. On the desk lay a legal pad with a single sentence. Monroe's Law in block letters. "Cameras tell the truth if you ask the right question." Jack stared at the words until they blurred. He heard footsteps in corridors from a long time ago, felt the heat of a burning house he had never seen, and realized the line he stood on was thinner than it had ever been. He had wanted absolutes. He had gotten ghosts. The pad's edges had been trimmed clean by a knife. On the last page, pressed hard enough to groove the paper, 3 numbers waited. 181. Maria glanced and nodded at his eyes. "Your badge number plus the number of the 4th floor," Maria said. "And the way he used to sign notes when he wanted me to read between lines," Jack said. The weight of the decision settled. He had to trust a dead man's lead or walk away from what he had spent his life doing. The phone in his pocket buzzed once with a message that showed no sender. It read simply, "Dock 12 midnight." Then the letters faded, and the screen returned to the hour. He could feel the case reaching up to pull him under. The watcher was not a ghost. The watcher used hands and keys and old habits. As daylight bled into evening, Jack and Maria traced one of those habits back to the precinct's basement, where the cameras were monitored and occasionally forgotten. Bill, the building caretaker who knew every squeak and switch in that stone, walked the corridors like a man walking the halls of his own memory. "They say you have spare keys to history," Jack said. Bill smiled with half his mouth and stopped at a door with no label. "I have keys to closets," Bill said. "History is upstairs with the men who get their shoes polished." The room beyond held racks of drives and monitors that showed too many angles of the same stairwell. Bill hung back like he was letting them into a private room at a museum. He'd always been there for Jack, quiet, helpful, unnoticed. Jack had never asked how Bill paid for his daughter's college when the city cut hours. Maria stepped to a monitor and pointed. "This angle was swapped last week," Maria said. "New camera, older cable." Bill shrugged. "They replace what breaks," Bill said. "I do what the work order says." Jack walked the rack with the muscle memory of a man who had lost evidence once and never wanted to again. 2 drives bore tiny scuffs near the screws that did not match the pattern of others. Someone had moved them with impatience. "Show me your work orders," Jack said. Bill hesitated. It was a small hitch, but it told the truth. He reached into his shirt pocket and handed over a folded slip. The paper smelled faintly of solvent. The signature on the bottom was 3 letters that could have been anybody's and felt like everybody's. "Who asked for this?" Maria asked. "Deputy C," Bill said quietly. "Sometimes a tech from upstairs, sometimes a voice through the intercom that told me to leave the cart and walk away." "You left the cart," Jack said. "I did," Bill said. "I have a mortgage and bad knees. I pick the fights I can win." "And the iCards," Maria said. "You moved them." Bill looked at his shoes. "I delivered what arrived in my locker," Bill said. "Every time I didn't, someone called my cell and told me my daughter's route to work." Jack wanted to be angry, but fear made men into accomplices, and he had seen it too often to pretend it surprised him. He softened his voice. "Who is the watcher, Bill?" Jack asked. Bill swallowed and met Jack's eyes for the first time. "A ghost who hates you," Bill said. "A ghost who knows where the bones are buried and the closets you never opened." Maria stepped closer. "Names," Maria said. Bill reached for the back of the monitor rack and pulled a small metal tin free from a magnet mount. Inside lay a card with the black eye and a tiny thumb drive shaped like a cheap pen. He set them on the table and stepped back as if they could burn through his skin. "He told me to give you this if you started digging where you shouldn't," Bill said. "Said you would understand the code." Jack pocketed the drive and flipped the card. 3 numbers and a word had been printed in a tight block font. 18125 Harrison. If he needed the hint, he would not deserve his badge. 18 was R, 1 was A, 25 was Y, the rest was a dare. "Ray," Jack said. "He wants me looking at him." Maria watched Bill. "You are more than a delivery boy," Maria said. "You changed things." Bill sagged. The truth he had fought folded him up. "I swapped drives," Bill said. "I confused dates. I made your cameras say what he wanted. I told myself it was just cables and timestamps. Then a kid got hurt and I stopped sleeping." A hiss popped in the air. The monitor flickered. Jack's hand shot to Maria's shoulder. The small tin Bill had placed twitched, then cracked with a sound like ice in a hot drink. The lid jumped. Smoke lifted. A tiny blast peppered the table with flecks of metal and spit a smell of burnt dust. "Back," Jack said. Bill stared at the tin like it had cursed him. "He said it would erase my mistake if you found it," Bill said. "He didn't say erase my hands." The blast had not done real damage, but it had scattered the pieces. The thumb drive lay on the floor, melted along one edge but whole enough to survive. Maria picked it up with a pen and slid it into a fresh bag. Jack turned to Bill. "You are going to tell Internal Affairs everything and you are going to live long enough to take the stand," Jack said. Bill nodded and then looked at Jack like a man who had watched a storm build and forgave himself for not owning an umbrella. "He picked you on purpose," Bill said. "He said you see through people until you don't. He said you left him once and now you don't get to leave again." "What is the personal score, Bill?" Maria asked. Bill swallowed. "Your partner in 13, Bill said. Monroe. He said you let him burn." The word hung like a slap. Jack closed his eyes a second, then opened them. He could feel the floor tilt under the weight of old fire. He had begged the fire report to make sense, and it never had. Now somebody was using the ash to write new lines. Maria took his arm, not to pull him back, but to make sure he knew where he was. "He's playing with your history," Maria said. "Write your own version before he finishes his—" The card in Jack's pocket dug into his ribs as if to underline the point. The drive in the bag would hold code he did not want and needed to see. The explosion had been a message dressed as a trick. It said, "I can touch you and your friends." It said, "You are late, and I have been early for years." It said, "This is a vendetta wearing a mask of public service." Bill's phone buzzed. A single number showed on the screen before it went black. 4019. The internal switchboard extension flashed like a dare and then died. Jack looked at the dead screen and saw a future where he did nothing. He did not like it. He turned toward the door and the night beyond it. They chose the abandoned warehouse on the edge of Pier 94 for the endgame, because it offered corners and echoes, and because that was what the watcher expected. Jack intended to use those expectations like a mirror and make the reflection cut. They seeded the space with cameras Maria dry-fitted into ducts and crossbeams. They powered them with a hidden battery pack in a crate, labeled with a fake shipping company. Every feed ran to a tablet in Jack's pocket, and a second line Maria laced to a friend in the district attorney's office who still believed in grand juries. "We go light on bodies and heavy on proof," Maria said. "We keep our circles small," Jack said. "I do not want Mercer knowing a thing until it is too late to rewrite it." They were not naive. They told one uniform they trusted and one sergeant who owed them his job. They told Frankie Dunn because you cannot bait a trap for men like the Watcher without using bait that whispers to the right ears. Frankie made a face when Jack laid it out. "You want me to stand in for stupid," Frankie said. "I want you to look scared and mean it," Jack said. "And then I want you to walk out of here alive." They let the rumor leak that a ledger would move at midnight. The ledger never existed. The thumb drive from Bill had coughed up something better. A contact list nested inside a calendar of watch posts and an audio file of a voice giving orders to move case files from one floor to another. It was not a confession, but it was a rope. At 10 minutes to midnight, footsteps ticked like metronomes across the catwalks. A windbreaker moved along the north wall. A smaller shape peeled away and took a flank. The air tasted old and wet. Jack felt the past walking toward him. "You came," a voice said from the shadows. It was the same filtered sound from the calls, softened by open space. "Hard to resist a dead man," Jack said. Ray Monroe stepped into the cheap light like he was stepping onto a stage he had built with his own hands. Older, scar down the jaw, eyes bright the way some men's eyes get when they are very sure of themselves. He wore a department windbreaker as if it excused him. His smile held an old joke. "You look tired," Ray said. "You look alive," Jack said. "Death is a paperwork problem," Ray said. "You of all people should know that." Maria stood to Jack's left, angled to see both Ray and the catwalk. Her voice was level. "You used a prank call to open a door," Maria said. "You used Bill to make cameras lie." "I used the tools at hand," Ray said. "I got tired of talking to men who cared about optics more than victims. I built a way to see and to make people do the right thing." "You built a way to move money and erase your own footprints," Jack said. "And you put our switchboard in your pocket." Another set of feet sounded above them. Deputy Chief Alan Mercer stepped from behind a pillar like a man keeping his suit out of a puddle. His eyes flicked to the shadows. He did not look surprised. He also did not look like he intended to be the man who took a bullet for any of this. "You left fingerprints on your scoldings, Chief," Jack said. "We traced your work orders and your calls." "We are done here," Mercer said. "Whatever you think this is, it is not. Come in tomorrow and we will straighten out your confusion." "We are straightening it out now," Maria said. A footbridge creaked. Frankie Dunn shuffled into the light with his hands raised halfway and his face a map of bad decisions. His eyes skittered to Ray, then to Jack. Jack felt the math happen behind Frankie's eyes and prepared for the version where Frankie sold them both. "You said ledger," Frankie said to Jack. "You said I could walk." "Walk when the cameras stop," Jack said. "Not before." Ray laughed softly like he was watching a favorite scene. "You always picked interesting friends," Ray said. "You always thought you could save them by proximity. You burned your life down so you could build a throne from shadows," Jack said. "And you want to sell it as justice." Ray's smile thinned. "You watched the wrong house burn," Ray said. "I told you to check the camera first, and you never did. You took their word over mine back then. They shut me off, and they will shut you off. The difference is I will see it happen and I will enjoy it." Maria lifted the tablet slightly and adjusted a slider that did not need adjusting. The feed to the DA friend blinked and held. Voices carried into a recorder that did not care who deserved what. "You made Bill into a tool and threatened his kid," Maria said. Ray shrugged. "I told a man to do a job he already wanted to do. He wanted to be needed. He wanted money. He wanted excuses. I gave him all 3. Frankie's hand twitched toward his belt. Maria saw it first. Her voice cut the air before his fingers got there. "Do not," Maria said. "Do not paint yourself into a corner you cannot get out of." Frankie froze. His eyes were wet with fear. He whispered like a child. "He said if I did not, they would find me in the bay," Frankie said. "He says a lot of things," Jack said. "He's not the only voice in this city." Mercer stepped back, calculating exits. Jack did not wait. He moved forward into Ray's space until the old familiarity closed the air between them. "This is not about me leaving you," Jack said. "This is about you choosing to be the man you used to hunt." "I am hunting them," Ray said, and the conviction made his voice bright. "I made Mercer pay. I made judges squirm. I turned cameras into witnesses. I did what you talk about in bar booths and never do. You turned power into a hobby," Jack said, "and you smiled while men bled." Ray's hand dipped toward his jacket. The room breathed in. Jack moved. He grabbed Ray's wrist and slammed it to the pillar, the old moves coming back with the ache left in them. The pistol skidded out and spun into the dark. Maria's foot found it and kicked it back behind her. Mercer reached for his phone and froze at the sight of a red dot on his chest. It was not a bullet sight. It was a camera indicator light, blinking from a rig Maria had hidden in the rafters. The picture was going out, and it was not coming back. "Deputy Chief Mercer," Maria said, her voice clear, her badge clipped under the camera's eye, "you are being recorded in the commission of obstruction of justice and conspiracy to tamper with evidence." Mercer hissed a word that did not help him. Ray laughed once, breathless. "You found your old spine," Ray said to Jack. "Good for you." "I never lost it," Jack said. "I just stopped using it as a weapon on my own city." Sirens sounded in the distance, the real kind converging. The small circle they had trusted worked. The sergeant, they told, did his job. Frankie sagged and covered his face with both hands like a man in church. Maria read Ray his rights. Jack let her, because giving a man the law is a kind of mercy. Ray listened like he was listening to an old song he had loved for a year and then forgotten. "I thought you were dead," Jack said softly when the words were done. "I thought I was better than you," Ray said. Uniforms poured in. Mercer tried to make volume stand in for innocence and failed. Hands found him, cuffed him, led him through the door he had thought he controlled. Frankie put his hands behind him with a relief that looked like surrender and survival at the same time. Bill would sign a statement and sleep for the first time in months. The warehouse's echoes finally changed shape. Later, on the loading bay where it had begun, the cameras still watched. The DA's friend called Maria to confirm the feed had saved to 3 different servers and that warrants were on their way to offices that had not been raided in a decade. The city did not tilt. It shifted a degree closer to fair. "We still work here tomorrow," Maria said. "If they let us," Jack said. "They will have to explain why not," Maria said. Jack looked at the dark where the eye symbol had blinked and felt the old ache ease a notch. "Cameras tell the truth if you ask the right question," Jack said, "and if you keep them pointed long enough." They stepped out into a bay wind that cut thin and clean. The sirens faded. The phones would start in the morning. The meetings would happen. Some men would lie, some would tell the truth because it made them feel light for a minute. Justice was not fire. It took time to catch. On the tablet, a final file surfaced as the feeds wound down. It was a small cryptic note, recorded by a camera that should not have had power. A shot of a hallway in the 4th-floor switchboard room flickered, empty and quiet. Then the black circle with a slit appeared in the corner of the frame, hand-drawn and fresh. Beneath it, someone had scrawled 3 letters that were not a name, but looked like one. EDC. The feed blinked and went dark. Jack felt the old warning thread a line through his relief. He did not need to say it. Maria said it for him. "Even when we break one net," Maria said, "there is always another." "We break them anyway," Jack said. San Francisco breathed around them, a city that had learned to carry secrets and refused to be defined by them. Jack Harrison stood in the wind and knew what mattered. He would wake up. He would listen to the calls. He would look at the cameras first. He would not dismiss the things that looked like jokes. Not anymore.